Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of NEC On The Run. Today we're talking men's basketball with Ron Ratner. Ron, there hasn't been much change in the standings, but let's take a look at where we stand.
Okay, Kyle, we've crossed the halfway point, and the team that I want to start out with today is Central Connecticut. Under first-year head coach Donyell Marshall, they started 0-6 in league play, but now they're making their move. They've won 3 out of 5, and look who they've beaten in those 5. First place Mount St. Mary's this past weekend, second place St. Francis U, and fourth place LIU Brooklyn. Now, if Central Connecticut wants to claim one of the 8 NEC playoff spots, they're going to have to make up some ground. They're 2 games out of that last berth, but they took another step in the right direction Saturday with their 54-52 win at first place Mount St. Mary's. That win snapped the Mount's 8-game win streak and came after CCSU rallied from a 15-point second-half deficit. Blue Devils reeled off 11 straight points after the Mount took a 6-point edge, with the big shot being this Austin Nels go-ahead three-pointer with 1:17 on the clock. Central Connecticut did have to survive Chris Ray's layup attempts and then half-court heave at the buzzer that was just off, but they came away with the win. After the game, Central head coach Donyell Marshall said, "We've come back in a lot of games, but they haven't been able to finish games before. But the last couple of games, they're starting to see they're better than our record. They know they have to get stops, and we made them take a lot of tough shots late." Central Connecticut has stepped up its defensive effort and now looks like a force to be reckoned with as we enter the final 3 weeks of the regular season. And Kyle, how about Robert Morris and St. Francis U last week sweeping their swing through Brooklyn? For St. Francis U, it stretched their win streak to 4 games and left them in a tie with FDU for second place in the conference with an 8-4 record. Josh Nebo was the man for SFU last week. The NEC Player of the Week averaged 21.5 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, shot 64% from the field. Scored a career-high 24 points against St. Francis Brooklyn on Thursday. 2 days later, he had 19 points and 7 boards against LIU. Although he's only a sophomore, he has 112 block shots for his career now. He's already second place on the St. Francis U all-time list. And speaking of Josh Nebo, I think, Kyle, it's time for a Did You Know?
All right, let's go.
Kyle, did you know that Josh Nebo had 7 dunks in 2 games last week and leads the league with 36 on the year? By far the most in the NEC this season. How about Josh Nebo this year, Kyle?
Josh Nebo's looking great, throwing the ball down, blocking shots, but Ron, we're done with the Did You Know. Let's get back to where we stand.
One more SFU note, Kyle. Keith Braxton won his 6th NEC Rookie of the Week award this week. He's one of only 9 players in the 36-year history of the conference to win at least 6 in one season. What a year for the SFU freshman from New Jersey. Robert Morris also won both its games in Brooklyn. Colonials, looking to move up the standings, held LIU and St. Francis Brooklyn to under 60 points per game on just 34% shooting from the floor. Strong defensive efforts by the Colonials. After the game, Andy Toole said, "We're learning what it takes to play well. If we continue to stay locked in on the defensive end, success is going to follow." Speaking of success, I want to go right into my under-the-radar player of the week.
Ron, you're just making a lot of decisions without me, but I'm going to let it ride. Go ahead.
Kyle, we've been talking all year about the NEC freshman class, but one player who hasn't received as much attention as some of the other rookies is Robert Morris freshman Deshaun Burke out of Orange, New Jersey. He had his first career double-double with 10 points and 10 rebounds in Robert Morris's win at LIU, hit a pair of big free throws late in the game to seal the win. He's been great in conference play, and I think Deshaun Burke is a player you'll be hearing more of as the season progresses.
Well, Ron, as it's been every week with your under-the-radar performers, it's turned out that, they've had big games and they've been on the TV side. But I want to get you back on track. Let's head back to where we stand.
Let's get right to the game of the week, and once again, it involves Bryant. If you remember a few weeks ago, it was Bryant and Sacred Heart going to triple overtime in one of the great games in NEC basketball history. They had the rematch on Saturday, this time in Fairfield, and it was more fireworks from the 2 teams. And Kyle, just when it looked like Sacred Heart had sealed the deal late, Nizre Zuzwa, the NEC's leading scorer, did it again. He did it against FDU last week with the game winner. This time he sends the game to overtime with this wild three-point shot off balance from a good 30 feet out to send it to the extra session. Now it was Quincy McKnight's turn to shine for Sacred Heart. First, he got the Pioneers on the scoreboard in overtime with this three-pointer, then added a second three-pointer with just over 2 minutes to go that gave Sacred Heart a 4-point edge. And just when you thought Brian had run out of magic, there was Zuzwa with the ball in his hands, clock about to expire, fires up this shot from beyond half court that goes in, but he had stepped out of bounds, and Sacred Heart escapes with the 73-70 overtime victory. Now, Kyle, I'm not the only one who's gotten hooked on this Bryant-Sacred Heart rivalry. How about Ryan Peters, at Pioneer Pride, one of the NEC's great bloggers? Can we go to a Twitter timeout?
Why don't you go ahead?
All right, this week's Twitter timeout from Ryan Peters. The amount of game-tying heroics Brian has pulled on Sacred Heart over the past 3 years has been staggering. He is absolutely right, as we've discussed, and there's no bigger Sacred Heart fan than Ryan Peters. So Brian has crushed him over and over again. But Sacred Heart's managed to win the 2 games this season in overtime. Sign me up for round 3 if they meet in the playoffs.
All right, Ron, well, when you talk about Sacred Heart and Bryant, you can't forget about the Joe O'Shea game. Now we're done with that. Do you have anything left for me in the Where We Stand?
Just a couple of shout-outs, Kyle. First to Mount St. Mary's, still 2 games clear of the field in first place. They also became the first NEC team to clinch a playoff spot this year, one of the 8 berths that are open. They did it in just the 11th game of an 18-game schedule. Great job by Mount St. Mary's. Also, shout out to Corey Henson, scored his 1,000th point on Saturday on national TV against Fairleigh Dickinson. He becomes the, how many players do you think have scored 1,000 points in this league's history?
15.
15? My goodness. 210 players have scored 1,000 points in NEC's 36-year history. Corey Henson, the latest to accomplish it. Good job, Corey, and I'm sure we'll be seeing many more points out of him as he continues on his last year plus in the NEC.
Well, congratulations to Corey Henson. It must be amazing to score your 1,000th point on national television. Ron, I don't think we have many segments left. I think we have the Who Said It. What do you got for me this week?
This is a tough one, Kyle. 2 for 5 this year on Who Said It. I think we're headed right to 2 for 6. Here we go. These are the dog days of college basketball. If you want to make it to the good part of March, this is where you have to begin playing pretty good ball. And I'll give you a clue. This team has been playing some pretty good ball as of late. Kyle, who said it?
I'm going to go with Andy Toole.
You are incorrect once again. Batting .333. The correct answer, of course, is Bashir Mason of Wagner. Wagner playing some real good ball as of late. They've won 3 in a row. They're now 7-5 in the league, tied for 4th in the conference. They're one of the teams looking to move up the standings and guarantee that home playoff game that comes with being a top 4 seed.
Well, Ron, Coach Mason is right. This is the time of the year that you want to start building momentum towards the postseason. Let's move on to the final segment. Rumor out there that there's a triple header on Thursday. Let's go to the NEC on TV.
Kyle, it's not rumor, it is fact. NEC triple header this Thursday night. Settle in starting at 5 p.m. Fairleigh Dickinson hosts Central Connecticut on ESPN 3. That's the opener. Then we move on to MSG Plus and Fox College Sports. They'll be carrying both ends of then a doubleheader at 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock. We have Wagner. This is a big game now. Wagner visits St. Francis U at 7 p.m. You have Wagner at 7-5, SFU at 8-4. Both teams looking to make a dent on Mount St. Mary's and cut into their lead at the top of the conference. Then at 9 o'clock, the scene will shift to Fairfield, Connecticut, where Sacred Heart will host St. Francis, Brooklyn. Cox Cable, for our fans in Connecticut and Rhode Island, they'll be carrying that game as well. Big night for NEC TV, and I'm looking forward to it.
Ron, that is a busy night for the NEC. And fans, don't forget you can catch all other league games live on NECFrontRow.com. For Ron Ratner, I'm Kyle Turner, and this has been NEC On The Run talking men's basketball. Thank you for watching NEC Front Row.